It's diff screw, bronze side, facing upwards when you pop it in with the gears. Finished the chassis in the front end, and now you're on to the transmission. So, all right, carrying on. Steps F1 through F2 are very easy. It's just taking this metal plate, screwing it into 1/2 of the transmission assembly. Just the 3-screw step. 2 steps for 3 screws. They do want you to put black grease on these ones that are holding the metal into the plastic, but that's about it. Just to make it a little bit easier going into this. It is a nice aluminum motor mount with heatsink fins. I have been hand screwing this whole car together so far, not using a power driver, and you don't need one. There we go. There's 1/2 of the transmission assembly put together. Now it does mention that the diff height adjustments, you do have a bunch of them. The kit is a 0, but you can have a +1 up to a +3.5 diff height raise. This, it doesn't actually say what it does to the handling of the car. Like on the steering side, it mentioned what the change affects. With this, for diff height, it doesn't actually say what it does. But it comes with a 0 height diff. Step F3 is installing that insert as well as some of the bearings, and then more bearings, and then the gear set, and then you install the ball diff. Before I install the ball diff, I am going to look up the how to break it in instructions. I just want to see if there's something I should do before installing it in the transmission. So I've got the one insert in for the 0 height. That's this one here. And then this one, I had to look up what this meant. It means push firm. So it's going to be a really tight fit. So that's this other adapter. This one's also an adjustable height, although I didn't see anything in the book for how to adjust this if you want to change it. Put it in like this, push firm. And then the bearing goes inside of that. It says to push firm because they just kind of snap into place. So step F4 is the other side of this diff assembly. Make sure that you've got everything in the proper orientation. This is the piece that they mentioned to push in hard. So you just push it until you hear it pop into place. And that's it. Actually, that was easier than the other side. You have the bearing inside of that. And then this shim as well. Yeah, I put that in wrong. So I've got to pop that out. Okay, just push it through from the other side if you put it in wrong. Okay, now that's correct. A little bearing on that side, the shim, and a bearing. That side's done. I build the gears and I sandwich these two together. Now this is where it doesn't have the easy access rear diff because it's a split case, it's not a triples case. Some of the other ones have like an access hatch where the back half comes off and then you can just pull it straight out. This one does not do that. It's just a clamshell. Wow, I don't know what this is made out of, but this is the lightest piece of metal that I ever think I've ever held. This is ridiculously light. They want me to take a bearing, this orientation, this slips onto here, and then this slips into here. And before you go in too far, it wants me to add black grease to this gear set. Before I do that, I'm going to build out the other stuff before I get my hands greasy. This one is a bearing in each side of it. Okay, bearing in each side. And this sticks out of here. This is the shim that you had, has this little standoff thing, so you pop your standoff into that. And then you pop your gear onto that. Neato. Now all I have to do is just add some black grease to this mesh. Alright, I'm okay to install the ball diff into the transmission right now because I just looked up the TLR guide on how to break in your ball diff, and you do it after the car is built. What you do is you lock one side of the differential outdrive of the diff with a tool, and then you bump up your throttle trim on the other side, and then it slowly rotates the ball diff to seat in the balls, and that's how you do a break-in. Continue on with the build and we'll do the break-in after it's all done. So the only thing you have to do when you pop your ball diff into your transmission is to remember that you do want to have the adjustment screw, which is very hard to see because they put those little, remember those little plastic inserts we put in at the very start? So when you're visually looking down inside of your diff, it's very hard to know which side is the adjustment side. The adjustment side is the side with the copper looking ring on it, and this is the fixed side. Though you want to make sure that you put it with the diff screw is on left side of vehicle. Well, it doesn't necessarily help. It's diff screw, bronze side, facing upwards when you pop it in with the gears. Here's your 3-gear transmission. Transmission together, all you do is you just pop the other side of the case on, but there's 2 screws which hold this together, and they're different lengths. One is a 14mm and one is a 12, and you want the 14mm towards the thicker end of the diff case. So the orientation of this is with your mounting screws facing up towards you, and there's a hole right here on the side of the diff case. Transmission is now bolted together, and I'm ready to start installing the slipper clutch system, which is step F8. We're building the slipper clutch assembly. TLR 232077 is a 78 tooth. They want a 72 tooth for spec classes. You get it included. So I'm going to have to determine here, what size of gear do I want to use, spec class or normal? Then after you install the slipper clutch assembly, it's step F9, which is just adding the bracing onto the transmission. The slipper clutch assembly, I'm going to go with the 72 tooth spur because I am planning to run a 17.5 motor, which is more closely aligned with spec classes. So as I build this, I've just got all the parts ready to go. So this is one of the side plates, but this one, this red shim is interesting. And it's this one here, by the way, just so you know which one's what. So there you go, 232083 is the red one, which goes right here. Got the red one, and then the metal, and then a pad, spur gear, pad, metal, spring, shim, nut. And I wish that was in focus. Nice, keyed, very nice how that keys in. And a slipper pad, the gear. You may want to hold that one upside down. So you want to make sure that your pad is on the gear properly. There's nothing that holds it there. You have to make sure that you're aligned and in the grooves in its proper orientation. There we go. And then now I've got it all the way in, all aligned. Okay, and then flip the pad, then the metal. Those are keyed so they only drop in the one way. Spring, ooh, that's a beefy spring. And then we've got this big metal piece here with the little notch on it that goes on towards the inside. It's a very nice, robust slipper. This is their super heavy duty slipper assembly. Supposed to tighten until end of nut is flush, then tighten to desired setting, usually 2 to 3 millimeters from end of shaft. So at this point, this would be a very loose slipper. So they want me to tighten this down 2 to 3 millimeters from the end, so you want to have a little bit showing. So we'll take a measurement on there, but really that's probably all you need to do to get it started. You're going to set your slipper clutch after you get it built anyway. There we go, slipper assembly installed. Then we're on to installing the guards, the gear guard. So that's this little piece here, clips in over top. You just have to make sure that you fold it in under this little post here. So there's a little finger on here. You want to feed that under and then pivot it down into place. And then while that's just being held there by gravity, you want to take your other kind of, what is this, the motor cover, fit that in between like so. Those two pieces are just kind of free floating there. You align them, and then you take this one long screw and you put that all the way down through. Say to put a little dab of blue Loctite on here. I'm going to do that, and we're going to go all the way through. And we screw that into the back, making sure to not go too tight, as I believe this thing is designed to pivot. Do not over tighten, so they want to make sure that you don't bind that up too much, so I'm just going to have it snug. And then you take this side and you put a screw in over here so it doesn't pivot. Since it doesn't pivot, I'm not sure exactly why they don't want you to put the long one in too tight, but I guess it's just so it doesn't bind anything up or twist anything. There we go, that's step F9 completed. Transmission assembly and motor mount. Nice. After step F9, we move on to the rear assembly. Now this is a bunch of the tuning block stuff with the inserts so you can set your roll center and your pivot width, and here's all of the meanings for that. And then we start building the rear arm assembly. I was wrong earlier when I said you did not get all the adjustments. So as part of the Elite kit, you get a tuning bag. So this one has all of the adjustment blocks, as well as all of those shims for the transmission and stuff too are in here. Weirdly, the shock, why is the shock ends a tuning part? The other pieces for the transmission are in here too.